If you've ever had kids, you know Dr. Seuss because he makes the best kids' books. Before him, books about learning to read were pretty boring, but then he decided to make them funny and ridiculous and hilarious and rhyme. The Cat in the Hat was the big breakthrough for him. Others followed: Green Eggs and Ham, Fox in Socks. One of the things you'll know about Dr. Seuss is that most of the people in his stories aren't actually people. They're critters or creatures of his bizarre and goofy imagination. I think it was about imagination and silliness and learning to read without thinking about learning to read, because you're thinking about all the silly rhymes and silly pictures. That's what makes it work. The kids learn how to read because they're not thinking about the boring parts. They're having fun. They don't realize they're learning. Sometimes there was some subtle politics, I suppose. In Horton Hears a Who, which was turned into a movie, a huge elephant hears tiny voices, and it's a whole tiny world he saves. No one else believes it even exists. The catchphrase, "A person's a person no matter how small," has been interpreted as being pro-life. All right, it is, so what? In 1974, Dr. Seuss gave permission to his friend Art Buchwald to rewrite one of his poems into an anti-Nixon poem. This was the Watergate era. I don't think that was a particularly radical point of view, but, you know, so the man wasn't a political blank slate, so what? And I'm sure that by today's exquisite standards, he did draw things sometimes or say things sometimes that wouldn't be up to our woke standards. Pretty much anything written before 5 minutes ago fails that test. But the shocking news, real news, is that Dr. Seuss's own estate has announced that they simply will stop printing 6 of his books. I thought this was just like a satirical rumor, but it is true. Take a look at this. Statement from Dr. Seuss Enterprises, March 2nd, 2021. Today, on Dr. Seuss's birthday, Dr. Seuss Enterprises celebrates reading and also our mission of supporting all children and families with messages of hope, inspiration, inclusion, and friendship. We are committed to action. To that end, Dr. Seuss Enterprises, working with a panel of experts, including educators, reviewed our catalog of titles and made the decision last year to cease publication and licensing of the following titles. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, If I Ran the Zoo, Miss McElligot's Pool, on Beyond a Zebra, Scrambled Eggs Super, and The Cat's Quizzer. These books portray people in ways that are hurtful and wrong. Ceasing sales of these books is only part of our commitment and our broader plan to ensure Dr. Seuss Enterprises' catalog represents and supports all communities and families. That is so gross. They are erasing, unpersoning, destroying their own guy. They're canceling themselves or their grandpa. I know that book, Mulberry Street, by the way. It's such a fun book. You have to find strange things like a upside-down tree or a car without a wheel or whatever. There's no real person would find that book offensive. Imagine just declaring you're going to stop people from reading a book your grandpa wrote that has been loved by 100 million people because you, the ingrate, woke heir to his fortune, found something to grouse about so you could be important for a minute too. No one believes that Dr. Seuss is bad. No one. Not even his royal wokeness, Barack Obama. Listen to this.
Pretty much all of the stuff you need to know is in Dr. Seuss. It's like the Starbelly Sneeches. You know? We're all the same. So why would we treat somebody differently just because they don't have a star on their belly? If I think about responsibility, I think about, Horton sitting on the egg up in the tree while Lazy Mayzie's flying out doing whatever she wants. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is that as you get older, what you will find is that the homespun basic virtues that your mom or your dad, folks you care about or admire taught you about hard work, being responsible, being kind, giving something back, being useful, working as a team. It turns out it's all true.
He's right, actually. That was just a few years ago. And yet Dr. Seuss is canceled. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.